October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
This is Rogers TV, New Brunswick.
I'm Mallory, and I was walking home one night when an impaired driver hit me. He had been overserved in 2 bars before getting behind the wheel. If the servers would have called him a cab instead of serving him more alcohol, my life would be the same as what it used to be. I think servers play the biggest role in keeping us safe because it's up to them what state the person's in when they leave. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law.
This is Rogers TV, Fredericton.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's update on COVID-19 in New Brunswick. Speaking on behalf of the province today are Dr. Jennifer Russell, the Chief Medical Officer of Health, and the Honorable Blaine Higgs, Premier of New Brunswick. Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue à cette mise à jour sur le COVID-19 au Nouveau-Brunswick. Les porte-paroles aujourd'hui sont le médecin hygiéniste en chef, la Dr. Jennifer Russell, et le Premier ministre, l'Honorable Blaine Higgs. Dr. Russell.
Good afternoon, bon après-midi. Avant que je commence, je voulais remercier les interprètes ici. We thank the interpreters today as they do their work because they are here day in, day out throughout this whole experience. So I know there are a lot of people that put comments and messages in there as they respond to the CBC showing of this and also on our website. So put a little shout out to our interpreters. They're doing such a great job. Aussi, je tiens à commencer aujourd'hui en soulignant le travail acharné à l'esprit héroïque de toutes les infirmières et de tous les infirmiers qui travaillent au Nouveau-Brunswick. Cette semaine, c'est la Semaine nationale des infirmières et des soins infirmiers et demain, c'est la Journée internationale des infirmières et l'anniversaire de la naissance de Florence Nightingale. Les infirmières et les infirmiers travaillent sans relâche dans les hôpitaux, les foyers de soins et les milieux communautaires pour aider à assurer la sécurité de la population du Nouveau-Brunswick et aussi dans la santé publique. Nous sommes profondément redevables à nos infirmières et infirmiers et nous leur sommes grandement reconnaissants pour leurs compétences et leur dévouement. I'd like today to acknowledge the hard work and the heroic spirit of the nurses working in our province. This is National Nurses Week in Canada, and tomorrow will mark International Nurses Day, the birthday of Florence Nightingale. Nurses have worked tirelessly in our hospitals, nursing homes, and in community settings to help keep New Brunswickers safe, as well as in our public health department. So we owe a great debt of gratitude to our nurses, and we can all be thankful for their skill and dedication. Last Friday, New Brunswick moved into a new phase of our recovery and reopening as we moved to Phase 2, the orange level. The restrictions imposed under the provincial state of emergency are being loosened and people now have more opportunity to move around. But when people move, the COVID-19 virus can move with them. And that is why it is so important that everyone continue to maintain 2 meters of physical distancing between themselves and others when you're away from home. And when physical distancing is not possible, you should wear a community face mask that covers your mouth and your nose. And to some of you, this may seem unnecessarily cautious. Après tout, nos résultats ont été positifs jusqu'à présent. Depuis que nous avons entamé le processus de reprise des activités il y a 2 semaines, seuls 2 nouveaux cas de COVID-19 ont été signalés au Nouveau-Brunswick. Aucun nouveau cas n'a été signalé en fin de semaine. De plus, j'annonce qu'il n'y a aucun nouveau cas à signaler aujourd'hui. Ce sont des bonnes nouvelles. Nous devons toutefois demeurer sur nos gardes. Et n'oubliez pas que la période d'incubation du virus peut aller jusqu'à 2 semaines. Et si les activités de la dernière fin de semaine ont contribué à la propagation du virus, il faudra attendre plusieurs jours avant d'en prendre connaissance par l'intermédiaire des résultats au test de dépistage. Et pour cette raison-ci, c'est vraiment, vraiment important que tous les gens qui ont des symptômes soient testés et devraient téléphoner à 811. Et aussi, quand on a relâché un peu des mesures de santé publique, ça nous donne de l'espoir, ça nous donne d'énergie, ça nous donne d'enthousiasme. Quand j'étais jeune, moi, j'adorais le printemps parce que ça voulait dire qu'on pourrait débarrasser de les bottes d'hiver qui étaient très lourdes, puis on peut porter nos espadrilles, nos sneakers, puis on pourrait recourir vite. Puis ça faisait beaucoup de plaisir et ça me faisait du plaisir, puis ça me donnait du joie. Mais je demeurais à Bathurst, puis l'hiver était un peu plus longtemps à Bathurst qu'ici à Fredericton. Mais quand même, j'avais beaucoup d'enthousiasme. Quand même, on veut nous avancer très vite maintenant. On a beaucoup d'énergie et d'enthousiasme. Il faut encore prendre soin de toutes les directives qu'on avait annoncées au commencement, comme toutes les choses qu'on peut faire pour nous protéger. So there were no new cases reported over the weekend, and there are no new cases to report today. And that is good news. But it does not mean that we can afford to lower our guard. And what I was just saying in French is that when I was younger, I loved springtime because that meant that you could get rid of the winter boots and put your sneakers on and you could run really, really fast. And that was full of enthusiasm, and that was making me very happy when I was growing up and I was a kid. So it was very enthusiastic, and I think the urge to go faster than we need to go is there, but I think everybody still needs to be cautious and still needs to do all the things that we've been encouraging from the outset. So remember that this virus has an incubation period of up to 2 weeks. If the virus was spread by activity over the weekend, then we will not see that for several days, but we will see it on our test results. And I do encourage everyone who has symptoms to call 811 and get tested. Encourage your friends and family, if they have symptoms, to get tested, because that is the only way that we can find cases, is if we get tested. And obviously, it's, again, moving forward, it's going to be as important as it has been all along to continue getting those test results and finding cases. So we have had no cases in the middle of May, and that means that we've done an excellent job at controlling the spread of the virus back in April, when New Brunswick was in the first days of slowly opening. And because we know the risk of imported cases from travel outside New Brunswick still exists, it is as important as it always has been that anybody coming in from outside the province self-isolate for 2 weeks. Very, very important. And this obviously will contribute to our success moving forward. It may be the end of this month before we have a clear picture of what has happened in the first weekend of phase 2. And, you know, I think some people can be nervous about that, and I share those concerns. So the virus is with us. It will be with us for some time to come, and we do have to learn to live with it until we have a vaccine. So it means to continue to do things differently than we would have done before the pandemic. And again, these are going to be the things that we are going to have to get used to and become habituated to and be comfortable with. So when you keep your 2 meters of physical distance between yourself and others, you're creating that barrier that the virus can't cross. Coughing and sneezing into your sleeve will prevent the spread of the virus. Cleaning frequently the commonly touched surfaces in your household, like doorknobs and countertops, or your workspace for employers and employees that are just opening up in the days and weeks to come, will remove the virus if it's settled on surfaces. So all these actions are really, really important as we move forward if we're to continue to slow the progress of COVID-19. And so far, we have had good results, and we would love to maintain that record. And I think there are other jurisdictions that are watching what's happening here in New Brunswick, and so I'm grateful for that. But all of this depends on you, obviously. So a more important aspect of our success to date has been protecting the most vulnerable in our society. So because we learned from other jurisdictions, we knew that nursing homes, any closed institutional settings were at higher risk. And so whatever steps we needed to take to protect those populations, we have been taking those steps. The elderly, particularly those with underlying health conditions, are at grave risk from the virus, and we will maintain our vigilance on their behalf. But this is hard on families, and I know I have relatives, cousins, uncles, what have you, that are in nursing homes, so I do understand that challenge, and especially if there's a loved one who is in their final days of life. And obviously, out of compassion, we don't want anybody to have to die alone, and COVID-19 has created that situation over and over again, as we've seen in other jurisdictions. And it is a very sad fate, and we obviously it's not something that we want to see in this crisis. So I believe we can provide access for families while still protecting those who are at greatest risk at this moment. So the rules regarding visits to patients at the end of their life have been adjusted, and a patient may designate 2 persons to visit with them as they near the end of their lives. So it must be the same 2 people, and there wouldn't be any substitutions that would be permitted. Only 1 visitor will be allowed in at one time, although exceptions can be made for some circumstances, such as to support a frail elderly person visiting their spouse. So visitors must practice physical distancing and limit their interactions with facility staff. Again, we're not only protecting the vulnerable populations in this situation, but we also need to be very, very vigilant about protecting the staff as well. Designated visitors must also closely monitor themselves for symptoms of COVID-19 and refrain from visiting if symptoms appear. Public health guidance has been provided to hospitals and nursing homes in applying this compassionate measure. Restrictions are being relaxed, but they can't be removed. Les règles concernant la visite de patients en fin de vie ont été modifiées. Un patient en fin de vie peut maintenant désigner 2 personnes qui peuvent lui rendre visite. Une fois les 2 personnes sont choisies, aucune substitution ne sera permise. Une seule personne pourrait visiter à la fois, bien que des exceptions pourraient être accordées, notamment pour aider une personne âgée, frêle, qui visite sa conjointe ou son conjoint. Les visiteurs doivent respecter les consignes de distanciation physique et limiter leurs interactions avec le personnel de l'établissement, en mesure de protéger les employés aussi, pour leur protéger aussi. Les visiteurs choisis doivent aussi se surveiller minutieusement pour déceler les symptômes de COVID-19 et ne pas visiter le patient s'il présente des symptômes et devraient téléphoner à 811 pour se faire tester. Santé publique a fourni des consignes aux hôpitaux et aux foyers de soins concernant l'application de cette mesure de compassion. The virus is all around us. It's in Quebec, it's in Ontario, it's in the States, it's in Nova Scotia. PEI is doing very well. But at this time, we do still have to maintain our border measures to protect travel-related cases here in New Brunswick. We can't eliminate travel-related cases completely, but we definitely have to minimize the risk of travel-related cases. And for anybody who does have to come into the province, self-isolating for 14 days and doing it safely, staying in a different room, not sharing a bathroom, et cetera. These are very, very important things to consider and to follow the guidance of public health around that. No one needs to live in fear. I think if we're armed with knowledge, we can live with care and caution, but not fear. I think again, with everybody being armed with information and knowledge on how to protect themselves and their loved ones, employees, employers alike, this is very, very important. So we must support each other, we can support each other, we must protect each other, and we can. We can get through this together, one day at a time. Thank you very much. Merci.
Good afternoon. Bonjour. First of all, I'd like to start off by acknowledging this is National Nursing Week. It's important to recognize our nurses here in NB and across Canada and the tremendous role that they've played in helping us to control our pandemic here in New Brunswick, but working diligently in every province throughout our nation. It's certainly a special time to recognize their professionalism and their dedication. I hope that everyone was able to enjoy some of the loosened restrictions over the weekend. Now that we're in phase 2, or the orange level of recovery, more businesses are allowed to open and a wider range of activities are permitted. As we move into this new phase and people begin to spend more time out in the public, we all need to remember to be patient and respectful. Activities like shopping or eating in a restaurant aren't going to be the same now as they were in February. Certain things might take longer than we are used to, and we need to make sure we're following the rules implemented by the different businesses, and most of all, to exercise restraint and patience. We're all still figuring out what our new normal looks like, and that includes business owners. Nous voulons faire tout ce que nous pouvons afin que les entreprises puissent ouvrir, et pour qu'elles puissent le faire de manière sécuritaire. Business owners can contact the Business Navigators line with questions and concerns at 1-833-799-7966 or by emailing nav@navnb.ca. I'm glad we can all enjoy some more freedom now as the weather starts to get nicer, well, maybe with the exception of this past Saturday. We can now see our family and friends for outdoor gatherings, as long as we maintain a safe distance and limit the number of people to 10 or fewer. We can also attend smaller indoor gatherings or events like weddings, funerals, and religious services. Si nous ne respectons pas les directives, comme la distanciation physique ou le port de masque quand la distanciation ne peut pas être maintenue, nous pourrions être forcés de retourner en arrière. Throughout this pandemic, New Brunswick has been a leader. We must continue to lead the way now that our province has begun to recover. That is why we made the tough decision to keep access to our borders restricted. Our province still is surrounded by COVID-19, and while we know there will be additional cases, we need to minimize the risk. I know there are many people who wish they could come to New Brunswick. This includes people who own cottages in the province and those who want to visit close family and friends. Je comprends à quel point il est difficile pour ces gens de se faire dire qu'ils ne peuvent pas venir dans la province maintenant. Nous avons pu voir que notre approche a été efficace jusqu'à maintenant. Et nous devrons continuer à suivre cette approche pour maintenir les progrès que nous avons réalisés. If you have questions about the restrictions under the state of emergency order, please contact our toll-free information line at 1-844-462-8387 or email helpaid@gnb.ca. As New Brunswick's economy opens up, we're seeing a lot of activity on the new Job Match NB website. As of this morning, more than 500 positions had been posted, and there are 367 job seekers with active accounts who have applied for these positions. We have many job opportunities in the seafood processing sector in particular. We're looking for fish plant laborers, seafood plant workers, lobster processors, and more. Tomorrow, we will launch our next Working NB virtual job fair at workingnb.ca. This online platform will run from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. on Tuesday and Wednesday this week. More than 50 employers have registered, and they will have virtual booths set up so job seekers can explore available opportunities across New Brunswick. New Brunswick needs you. I encourage you to step up to help build a stronger New Brunswick, and New Brunswick for our future. During the virtual job fair, employers and job seekers will have the chance to chat with each other directly, and employers can review the resumes of potential candidates. Les personnes qui cherchent un emploi pourront discuter de leurs préoccupations concernant la formation et l'emploi avec des conseillers. Ils auront accès à de l'information sur la manière de présenter une demande d'assurance d'emploi et pour d'autres programmes. Les employeurs peuvent utiliser la plateforme pour discuter de sujets comme le recrutement, la rétention et la formation avec un consultant. Ils auront accès à de l'information sur l'aide offerte par le gouvernement fédéral et sur les programmes de recrutement. Last month, I sent a letter to the Prime Minister regarding infrastructure stimulus funding. In the letter, I requested more collaboration in relation to a variety of things, including flexibility within the funding package. This funding has to meet the unique needs of our province. For example, the federal government is proposing an allocation of $165 million for public transit. This amount will be divided proportionally and with matching dollars with the 4 municipalities that have public transit, including Fredericton, St. John, Moncton, and Miramichi. I feel that we need to have more flexibility and provincial level decision-making, as this fund is more suited to provinces with larger urban municipalities than it is for New Brunswick. The details are still being worked out, but I have been advised that of the $673 million New Brunswick is expected to receive, we will be able to reprofile only approximately 10%, or around $67 million, to focus on retrofits and upgrades for health centers, schools, and other public buildings, but not roads and bridges. My concern is our opportunity is here to put this money towards the areas that we need it most. I am concerned that funding more infrastructure and not limited to what is required to ensure proper asset management could have negative consequences down the road for federal transfer payments. I have more calls scheduled this week with my provincial counterparts and with the Prime Minister, and I intend to raise this issue again. Right now, we are all doing our best to adjust to our new normal. We can't expect to go back right away to living our lives the way we did before the threat of COVID-19. That may not be possible for months to come until a vaccine or an effective treatment is widely available. Si nous respectons les règles qui sont encore en place, nous pourrons continuer d'aller de l'avant. Avec l'été qui est proche, il y aura encore moins de restrictions et nous pourrons passer à de nouvelles phases du plan de rétablissement. Let's all continue to do our part. Together, we can find a balance that allows us to enjoy a less restrictive way of life while still protecting the health and safety of New Brunswickers and all New Brunswickers. Thank you. Merci.
Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre, Dr. Russell. Thank you, Premier and Dr. Russell. Nous allons maintenant procéder aux questions des journalistes. Vous avez toujours le droit de poser vos questions dans la langue de votre choix. We will now proceed with questions from members of the media. You have the right to pose your question in the language of your choice. Vicky Hogarth, Charlotte County TV.
Thank you, Bruce. My question is for the Premier. Premier Higgs, I understand that you, Minister Holland, Mr. Kuhn, and spoke with the Mayor of Campobello and the Chair of Accessible Campobello this morning. Can you tell us a little bit about what you spoke about and if any innovative transportation solutions were raised for the island?
Well, we spoke about, primarily, it was related to transportation and access to the rest of Canada, or New Brunswick in this case. We spoke about options for longer ferry service and what the implication of that might look like. We looked at the capabilities, I guess, of the current ferry operator and the ability to run a longer portion of the season, what would be required, what might be required for any continued service, the usage that would be part of that. So what we agreed at the end of the day was basically we're going to continue to work on a business case that would look at the reality of a longer service model. And but the conversation was certainly very amicable, and there were some very good facts shared in relation to the island and the demographics. And so I would say that, it was a good opportunity for us to understand the concerns. There were also some other points raised in relation to current access through Maine, and particularly for people that might be working on the New Brunswick side, but driving through Maine to get to work, and what they were required to do each time they came home. So I did ask for the detailed information in that regard, because at this point I found our ability to recognize people that are working on one side of the border or another. We've been able to find accommodations, and I believe that we'd also be able to find those same accommodations with the state of Maine.
Thank you, Premier. Ms. Hogarth, do you have a follow-up this afternoon?
I do, thanks, Bruce. Just a quick follow-up. Premier Higgs, do you see the federal government as needing to partner with you if there is a long-term solution for the Campobello Ferry?
Yes, indeed, I would, and I think that part of the infrastructure requirements that might be there for a larger facility for docking and such would be part of the federal government, and that was discussed as well. There seemed to have been some preliminary discussions that have already been had in that regard. We've also reached out to the local MP to understand the relationships and discussions that may have already been held. So, as with any topic, I'm always very prepared to look at all the facts and put them all on the table so we can make informed decisions and move in whatever direction makes sense.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Ms. Hogarth. Andrew Watt, Telegraph Journal.
Questions to the Premier. Premier, you don't sound particularly happy about the rules for this infrastructure funding. So you're going to take it up with the provinces and the Prime Minister. You really think he's going to change tune on this?
Well, let's just say I'm not optimistic, but I because this is something that I've been pretty focused on from the start. But it's even more critical right now because we have money that's been allotted to the province, and I think out of the original case of $673 million, there's likely around $500 million left that has numerous restrictions around it, and I highlighted one in the case of transportation. But my concern is this. We have identified needs for our asset management system, and that asset management can be in any form of roads, highways, bridges, schools, hospitals, and my point is, not knowing where our country is going to be in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years, given the tremendous amount of expenditure that is incurring on the federal side at this point, and seeing a major shift in our economic capability, and I would point primarily to what's happening in the energy sector in Alberta, the revenue stream coming into the federal government is going to be severely impacted. And so when you think of transfer payments coming down the road, and you think of, okay, what do I, if there's a possibility that my revenue could shrink coming into the province, what can I do to mitigate that? Well, it wouldn't be building something new that I didn't need. It would be trying to fix what I have to ensure it'll last longer and through a potential downturn in a revenue possibility. So as I've said before, my goal is not just trying to get our businesses up and running and stabilize our economy today. It's about ensuring we have a path for tomorrow. And that's why I'm pushing to have a refunding formula that reflects the needs we have today.
Thank you, Premier. Mr. Waugh, do you have a follow-up this afternoon?
I do. This one's to Dr. Russell. Dr. Russell, in the last couple of days, some researchers in the UK have put out a study saying that people who get packages delivered to their houses should not be touching them for up to 72 hours. Do we have any guidelines for that here, and is this something you're looking at?
I did read those studies, and I think I would have to be talking to my counterparts across the country if there's any more information or messaging that we'll be providing around that, but I did read those, yeah.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Mr. Waugh. Silas Brown, Global TV.
Hi, Premier. We heard this weekend some concerns from businesses that rolling into phase 2 and allowing them to open up was somewhat abrupt. Do you think maybe looking back that it may have been beneficial to take the rollout of phase 2 a little bit slower and work with businesses a little bit more on what these operational plans were going to look like and give them a bit of a heads up and more time to prepare?
Well, I think that when Dr. Russell and I put forward the four-phase plan back on April 24th, it was a clear path forward should our conditions of meeting public health standards in terms of the pandemic and its control and flattening the curve were reached. And so the triggers were very clearly laid out by public health in that regard. So having 2 weeks of zero in terms of our no new cases would certainly lead one to believe that the phase 2 approach would be coming soon. And all of the requirements have been put forward on a regular basis and been noted on our website on a regular basis in terms of what would be needed to start up. Because at no point in time, until there was a vaccine, were there any discussions that would have suggested that we would be able to open without the conditions of public health being protected and first and foremost. So I guess I would say while the announcement may have been they didn't think it would happen, all indicators would have been that yes, it would, because we had met the triggers of public health. So no one has to open. I mean, they don't have to come all open at once. They can open when they're ready, and they have to be in compliance. And we will actually WorkSafe will visit the sites to ensure the employees are protected, businesses are operating effectively. And there are other examples to go to understand this. I mean, you could go to the local grocery stores as an example to see what they've been doing since the beginning and how to control the movement of people in and out of the facility. So I guess they should take their time to understand they can do it right, but it shouldn't really have been a surprise.
Thank you, Premier. Mr. Brown, do you have a follow-up today?
Yes, this is also for the Premier. I'm curious if you're in any way worried about the potential of a constitutional challenge to the border restrictions that have been put in place, and what would your reaction be to seeing something like this come up that could end up in the border restrictions being removed?
Well, I guess, from the very beginning, public health has been our main focus, and it continues to be. You've heard both myself and Dr. Russell talk about one of our key areas of risk would be the borders. You also just have to look around and see what is going on in other provinces around us, particularly as we move across Canada, from across Quebec and Ontario. You know, while I appreciate the opportunity is there, if someone wants to put a challenge forward, I would suggest that public health is an overriding factor here in any decisions we're making. That has been key from the beginning. And you know, if someone in our country in a free democracy has a right to challenge the Constitution, any sort of violation they think is possible or is there is a violation, and all I would say to that is that is the right they have. We will defend the right we have to protect public health because we feel an obligation and a necessity to do so.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Elizabeth Fraser, CBC.
Hello, my question is for the Premier. In terms of the expansion of more non-emergency health services, what kind of progression can the public expect?
What kind of progression do you think?
So in this phase, there's a list of all the non-essential services that are able to be opened up right now, and we have had engagement sessions with most of the major groups to help them understand what the expectations are around their responsibilities to protect their patrons and to protect their employees. So that's what's been happening for this phase. And then as we progress to the next phase over the next 2 to 4 weeks, we'll have more, I'm assuming more engagement sessions around what that means to the people who are involved in those services. But definitely right now, this is allied health professionals that are part of this phase in orange. So, and the surgeries, the elective surgeries that had been stopped, so those are part of this phase as well.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Ms. Fraser. Do you have a follow-up today, Ms. Fraser?
Yes, a question for Dr. Russell. Does our low number of cases mean less herd immunity and a greater risk during a second wave? And can you explain?
So the questions around herd immunity will remain as long as we are still watching COVID-19 evolve around the world. So we first of all, don't have great testing yet in terms of the serological testing for immunity. And once we do get more testing around immunity, we actually don't know how long that lasts. So there are a lot of questions around that, and I wouldn't like to say that we have all the answers right now because we don't. So I think there could be different ways of approaching it at this point in time, and I don't think any one way ahead is the right way because we all are still learning. So at this point in time, I think with our low numbers, I agree there could be a risk of low immunity, but there are also some other pieces of information that we just don't have. Again, once we have more information from different jurisdictions around the world, and once we have a better idea of that serology and that testing that can tell us about immunity, we still won't know how long that immunity lasts. So we could find out that a certain proportion of the population is immune, but perhaps that immunity only lasts for a short period of time. We do expect there to be more waves. We do expect there to be more waves in all jurisdictions, depending again on how things evolve. And it's an ongoing situation. We will continue to monitor it, and we will continue to learn from other jurisdictions based on their experiences.
Thank you, Ms. Fraser. Thank you, Doctor. Matthew Roy Como, l'Acadie Nouvelle.
Bonjour, ma question est pour le Premier ministre Higgs. Monsieur Higgs, vous avez déjà dit que la prestation canadienne d'urgence pourrait avoir un effet négatif sur les entreprises qui reprennent leurs activités et qui vont avoir besoin d'employés. Maintenant que le Nouveau-Brunswick commence à rouvrir et qu'il y a de plus en plus d'entreprises qui reprennent leurs activités, qu'est-ce que vous voudriez qu'Ottawa fasse en ce qui concerne la prestation canadienne d'urgence?
Well, I don't know that Ottawa can actually do much in relation now. The program's out, but I think what workers need to understand is it's a 4-month program, and then it disappears. At least that's their current status. So, but I think what we have to do in terms of what businesses, and I've already heard from some businesses that they're having difficulty getting people to come back to work. And I think what people need to understand is that this is the federal program is a defined timeline. The jobs that are available are not, in the sense of some may not, but the ones that are looking to bring people back to work are longer than the 4 months. The situation needs to be such that the workers understand that if an employer has a job that meets public health requirements and is asking that employee to come back to work, and the employee chooses not to, the employer is under no obligation to hold that job for that employee. Because if the work-safe rules are being met, if public health rules are being met in relation to the business operating, and it can be assessed by WorkSafe, they can check it out and make sure that everything is well, so it's not a safety hazard. The employee has an obligation to return to work, or that employer has an opportunity to find someone else who would.
Thank you, Premier. Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Monsieur Wacomo, as-tu un suivi?
Oui, s'il vous plaît, cette fois-ci pour Dr. Russell. Dr. Russell, vous avez répété plusieurs fois vendredi et encore aujourd'hui l'importance de se faire tester et puis d'avoir un seuil là, assez bas pour essayer de se faire tester. Est-ce que les critères pour se faire tester demeurent les mêmes, c'est-à-dire là, avoir 2 des symptômes parmi les 10 symptômes, ou est-ce que ça devrait être plus bas que ça? Peut-être que vous avez l'intention de changer ce seuil-là bientôt.
Aujourd'hui, les critères sont les mêmes. 2 des symptômes qui sont écrits dans les critères. Alors ça n'a pas changé. Depuis hier, on a fait 290 tests. Alors, on veut garder le minimum de tests par semaine, environ 23-2500. Et on vient juste de changer pour ceux qui vont faire de chirurgie, ils vont se faire tester. Alors ça, c'est quelque chose qu'on ajoute. Puis la prochaine chose qu'on voulait ajouter, ça serait au niveau des conducteurs de camions d'extérieur. On est dans le processus de travailler avec l'association pour voir la possibilité là. Mais pour ceux qui ont des symptômes, ça va continuer à être très, très important. Alors, au fur et à mesure qu'on veut garder les nombres à un tel montant pour nous dire qu'on pourrait être confiant dans les nombres et les cas qu'on a, ça va continuer à être très, très, très important. Alors, je vous encourage de vous faire tester si vous avez des symptômes, si vous connaissez des gens de votre famille, des employés, des employeurs, des collègues, de se faire tester et donner le support pour se faire tester. Et si vous avez besoin de rester à la maison parce que vous avez un test positif, qu'il y a des gens qui vont vous donner le support que vous avez besoin pour rester à la maison en sécurité.
Merci, docteur. Merci, Monsieur Wacomo. Laura Brown, CTV.
Hi there. I'm wondering, Premier, I believe on average last week there were over 1,600 personal vehicles a day looking to cross New Brunswick to land ports of entry, and 39 on average each day were turned away. That seems low compared to how many are actually allowed through. Can you comment on that? Is there that many people like essentially coming home or coming into the province for medical treatment or work?
Well, it is about 1% to 2% that are being turned back. And yes, there's a various number of reasons. Some are coming because they work just on the other side of the border, like in Quebec. They're coming, into Edmundston, working some at the hospital, maybe some working in St. Clair in the fish in the chicken processing. So we do see that. Actually, we're going through an analysis now to understand how much of it is new traffic, how much is routine traffic, and but in all cases, every car is stopped and evaluated, and the understanding of where they're going and why, and the contact points to get in touch with them. So we're now going through the analysis because as we get into this season, we know that more people there are projects going on in our province which we want to continue, that there will be an increase of potential people working in our province. We want to understand where, and we want to understand that they're absolutely isolating in their particular job sites, and they're not coming right in and working with other Canadian or New Brunswick workers. That would make it very difficult. We do see situation, I guess, that There are doctors that come and go in the province. We have that situation as well. So we're analyzing that today, but in all cases ensuring that it is necessary travel.
Ms. Brown, hang on. The doctor would like to comment.
Yeah, so I feel like part of your question, though, is really wanting to address how much traffic there would be under usual situations, under normal circumstances, and Department of Public Safety analyzed the information, and compared to a year ago, there has been a drop of traffic across the border by something like 80%. So compared to a year ago at this time, we have 80% less traffic coming across the border. So if that contextualizes your information a bit better, then that, I think that was what you were driving at. Excuse the pun.
Thank you, Doctor. Ms. Brown, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you so much for that. This one is on the visiting patients nearing the end of their life. Now, I can appreciate just how difficult it would be to determine who's considered at that point. I'm sure there's going to be some people that are desperately wanting to see their loved ones in a nursing home after this announcement. I'm wondering if there have been any guidelines sent to nursing homes who are, I guess, meant to follow or to determine who is considered at that point.
Yeah, the task force met last week on this, so we did provide information for hospitals and nursing homes, specifically on palliative care patients and the visitor policy.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Gail Harding, CBC.
My question is for Dr. Russell. What are the strict controls under which daycares will open?
So right now we have information on our website that can be accessed, and for the ones that fall under EECD, those ones are opening. My understanding is May 19th, but the privately owned ones are have the opportunity to open sooner. Again, if they follow the information and the guidance that is on our website.
Thank you, Doctor. Ms. Harding, do you have a follow-up today?
Yes, for Premier Higgs. Many were expressing concerns on social media about how busy restaurants were on Mother's Day. How do you see the public's response to the new phase so far, and do you have any concerns about people not following the health guidelines?
Yes, I am concerned about that. I think people were anxious to get out in the open and exercise some degree of normalcy. The being a Mother's Day weekend, it added to the I guess the interest to get out in public and go to a restaurant. I would like to think that the restaurants, you know, the social distancing was still practiced. The bubble concept, people were staying away and effective distancing, and restaurants were following those orders. But I noticed the change in traffic immediately. Actually, Friday evening. Certainly here in Fredericton, up in Prospect Street, there was a lot more activity around than there had been on Thursday. So it is concerning, and I guess all things in moderation. So it's important that through it all, people are recognizing that we're only going to be able to continue on this path of recovery if our health requirements continue to be met. And so let's not overdo it. Let's be conditioned on what we need to do and to ensure that we don't regress, that we're able to keep moving forward.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Ms. Harding. Voilà la fin de notre mise à jour. Merci beaucoup. That concludes today's update. Thank you. Thank you.
Length of the preceding program, we now join the regularly scheduled program already in progress.
5.
Yeah, they were definitely very supportive of each other. Their longevity as a couple would attest to that. It's hard being an artist. It's a very competitive thing. They mentored each other. Molly used to say that all she knew about watercolor was learned from Bruno, which is interesting because everybody thinks of Molly as being the master watercolorist.
There was a fair amount of autonomy between the two of them with their painting careers, but ultimately they would have been each other's greatest level of support.
Both were talented and well-known artists, and their work is found in collections throughout Canada. Their energy and enthusiasm as teachers, as fundraisers, and arts advocates have helped create a climate for artistic and cultural growth in New Brunswick and earned them the respect of the academic world and the community beyond. During their career, Bruno held more than 250 group shows and 80 standalone shows. Molly received the Order of New Brunswick in 2002. During her prolific career, she produced more than 400 paintings. For their influence on artists, the art community, and for their promotion of New Brunswick through their work,